Hi everyone, it's Sherry Carroll here with a couple ideas using some of the Ranger Distress paints. I've created bookmarks for back to school time, but you could create backgrounds as well for cards and even journal pages. I'm starting off with some regular white Neenah cardstock, which I have cut to about 2 inches by 5.5 inches, a Diane Reevely stencil, which has the alphabet, and also the brushed pewter distress paint, and an ink applicator tool. So I'll get my bookmarks set down on my table here and go ahead and place my stencil right on top, and I'll be shaking up my paint really well, and it does have a little ball in there so it helps mix up the paint. And once I have that shaken up real well, I'll go ahead and just dab that onto my work surface. And then I can grab my ink blending tool and just go ahead and fill up that sponge with the paint just by dabbing it on. And now I'll go ahead and press the ink blending tool right on into the stencil. When you first get started, you need a little bit more of the paint, but once you get going, that sponge does fill up with paint and it's much easier to just dab on. So keep adding the paint over the stencil until you can see that you have filled in the areas that you want to. And I want to make sure that some of the letters are really filled in and some are a little lighter. I'll go ahead and lift this up so you can see. Once I'm happy with that, I'll go ahead and move my stencil down and line it up and get the bottom half and just continue dipping my ink blending tool into the paint. And if I need more, I'll just go ahead and dab on some more and fill up that ink blending tool again. And go ahead and press that ink right into the stencil. It doesn't take this paint very long to dry, but if you are in a rush, you can go ahead and hit it with a heat tool. So here I'm shaking up the broken china paint, and it also has a ball in it, and you can hear it when you shake it. So I am off screen, but I have been shaking it. And I have the Hero Arts tweed pattern stencil here, and I'll just go ahead and lay this over both of my bookmarks. So this is the broken china. And again, I'll go ahead and just dab this onto my work surface. And these paints clean up really easily from your work surface. I'm working on a plastic placemat just because it's white and you can see the background really well. So here I'll just go ahead and dab this broken china paint right into the stencil just like I did the letters. But instead of going over the entire surface, I'm just going to hit just spots on my bookmarks. I really love these paints, and I don't know if you can see, but as I'm adding the broken china, you can still see my letters from the brushed pewter as I'm overlaying on top. I love how the brushed pewter still comes to the top. With this technique, you can add a little or a lot, and I've just chosen to go really lightly so that I get a really nice layering effect. I've pulled out some of my favorite distress stains. So here I have weathered wood, wild honey, antique linen, faded jeans, and walnut stain. And at this point, I'm not sure which ones I'll be using. I just pulled out my favorites, and I also have my spray bottle, which I'll go ahead and spray my bookmark. So I'll start off with the weathered wood, and with the water I see that it's a bit too light, so I'll just go ahead and grab my wild honey and add some more vibrant color in there. And the next one I'll grab is my walnut stain, and I'll add this right next to that wild honey. And sometimes you can just spray it a little bit more or run your finger around on it just to kind of get your colors to move around a little bit. You can also blot with a paper towel. These stains are perfect for multi-layering, so you can continue to add color on top of each other. So here I'm just going back with a little bit more of the walnut stain, and I'll just kind of blot and move it around just a little bit. You don't want to saturate your paper too much, so in between layers it's a good idea to hit it with a heat gun. But I'm just going to continue on just to get this done, and I've just added faded jeans, and I'll get a little bit more water and see if I can get this to run just a little bit. And you can see where that paint is resisting and those letters are coming through that stain. I'll finish up by adding a little bit more of the wild honey on the top and the bottom, and I absolutely love how it is quite orange when it comes out, but it does dry a really, really dark yellow. So I do have a little adhesive on my bookmark, so I'll go ahead and peel this off. And here's how this is looking. You can see where everything is resisting. And for the next step, I'll just go ahead and heat this with my heat tool and let it dry a little bit. I want to add some white highlights, so here I have my picket fence distress stain. And you will also want to shake this up before you go to use it. And the picket fence distress stain is a little bit thicker than regular stain, so you can go ahead and use it directly through a stencil. And I do have the Diane Reevely, it's the larger alphabet stencil here. And I'm just blotting this into some of the letters, kind of hitting it randomly, and just adding a little bit of highlight here and there. I felt I needed to add a little punch of color here, so I have my walnut stain and also a Sukaneko sponge dauber and a Hero Art stencil that's a border stencil, and I'll be using the little polka dots. It's really easy to see through the stencil, and to use the little sponge dauber you just tap it into the ink pad and it fits on your finger just perfectly. And so for the dots I can just go right on into the dots and give it a little bit of a twist. And I'll go ahead and hit all the dots once I'm done, and I'll be making this nice and dark, and you can see those paints are still resisting through all these layers of inks and stains. Okay, everything is dry, and I have mounted these to some Desert Storm Nina, and here's how this is all looking up close. Love all the actually flat texture, but it looks like it's super textured with all those layers of inks. I have cut a couple pieces of acetate. As I was thinking about this and how the inks are water reactive, I figured I'd want to go ahead and protect those inks on the bookmark. So I've cut the acetate, and here I'm just using my tiny attacher to attach it just at the top. And now the inks are protected from any spills or moisture that might get into the bookmark. For one of my bookmarks, I wanted to add Simon the dog, so this is the Love set with the Boston Terrier. I've already stamped him with my black Memento ink and used a couple Copic markers to color him in. And now I'm just adding some adhesive to the back so that I can just stick it onto the acetate. This bookmark is to remind us to go ahead and bookmark the new Simon Says Stamp blog in your browser. So here is Simon on the bookmark. I have stamped glasses onto this Simon the dog, and I'll be using glossy accents to fill in the lenses so they will look like glass. Okay, one last thing I need to do before these are finished is to go ahead and add some twine to the tops of the bookmarks. And so I have my crocodile here, and I'll just use the larger hole punch. It goes through all the layers really easily, so once I give that a punch, I'll go ahead and clear out the paper from that hole punch before I start on the next one. The cord I'm using is from Lawn Fawn, and it's a really nice blue cord. It really goes well with the colors that I've chosen in my bookmark. So I'll just go ahead and loop this through and pull it and pull the strings through. And here's another look at my bookmarks ready for back to school, and a close-up of all the detail with the layers of the paints and inks, and the reminder to bookmark the new Simon Says Stamp blog. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial, and thanks for watching.